Hello, welcome to the Mortgage Strategy Awards for 2020. Today, we'll be presenting a webinar with two of the shortlisted people in our Best Mortgage Administrator Award, which is sponsored by Pepper Money, of whom their sales director, Paul Adams, will be joining us. So I'll start with my first question. Jade, how did you manage to transfer your workflow to your home after we were all ordered to work from home?
Personally, I found the whole thing strange to start off with, but from a transition point of view, we're quite out to date with the modern world, so everything was online. It was all ready for me at home. The only difference in terms of the transition was going from a landline to a mobile number. So the first month and a half was probably the most difficult, and then after that, nice, smooth and easy transition. But I would say overall, I would say that the workflow became my entire life and my priority, which we'll get onto later on.
Cool. And Megan, did you have much the same experience?
Yeah, so it was quite simple to work from home. We had the laptop, I've got the setup, so it was quite easy. The only thing we didn't have, like Jade, was the phones. But yeah, the workload was still high and we still managed to cope with everything from home.
And congratulations to you both, by the way, for being shortlisted for this award. I mean, it's probably one of the most difficult awards to win, I would imagine, especially with what we've all had to face so far this year. So, like brokers, like lenders, and everyone else in this industry, transitioning to going from the office to home, you'd have probably picked up some efficiencies, or you've probably done something differently than you would have done if you were in the office. And so, I suppose, what have you done differently that you would be keen to implement as business as usual, even when you're getting back to the office, that you think will support you in your roles going forward?
Yeah, so a lot of stuff, because we were working from home, had to then be sorted online. So usually if I'm in the office, we post things to clients, but it actually saves a lot of time just being able to email it out.
Yeah.
So that was one thing definitely that saves a lot of time.
True. And Jade?
For me, it would be like Megan said about the post. I didn't do any of that via lockdown. How it worked for Liddle Perrett was, I don't live near my office. My colleague does, so he'd essentially be the one in charge of the post. So he would come to the office and collect the post, whereas I didn't come to the office in about 6 months, I think it was. But probably the only implement that I took away from it was that I don't do a 9 to 5 job anymore. I actually tend to have time in the afternoon or first thing in the morning to accommodate for clients, which I probably didn't do when I was at the office, because as soon as it hit 5:30, I was out the door. But that doesn't seem to be the case anymore since lockdown.
Oh, perfect. So we're probably all saving the planet a little bit, because I think lenders are the same, less about post and thinking about how can we get things to the people that need it quicker. So that has to be a good thing about the pandemic, I suppose.
I've got a question that I'd like to ask Megan, which is, what did you learn about retaining high standards of customer service throughout this hectic time that you'd like to share with people watching?
So for me, it was probably key to keep clients updated, because they were unsure of what was happening, whether their applications were still proceeding. For me, it was just key to keep emailing, responding, ringing them just to update them, even if it's like a silly update, just to let them know what was going on.
Thanks very much. And Jade?
For me, in terms of maintaining relationship, that's my most important part about my job. That's why I love it. I generally call clients all the time anyway. It's what I do. I talk for England. So for me, I just carried on doing what I do at home. Nothing really changed. I still nagged them to death on the phone. I would text them if I couldn't call them, which I didn't really tend to do before. I would always pick up the phone or send an email. It's a bit more formal. However, when we went into lockdown, I found that, you know what, I'm going to drop them a text. I'm going to WhatsApp them. I just found that a better way of communicating to some people, because they're in the same situation as you, and you just got to be lighthearted about the situation and just all come together and get on with it. And quite frankly, that's how it worked, and it worked quite well actually. There was no complaints.
And the thing is, it's it's been difficult for everybody. So the one thing that I'm sure many people who watch this broadcast would want to know, and I'm sure they're from a lender background. So let's talk about the lenders for a moment. Is what could we do to make your life easier? I'm very aware that advisors and they kind of give the advice and they kind of talk to the customers and set the expectation, and then things get passed off to you guys to kind of transact from there on in. And often that means more of the conversations that happen with lenders come from yourselves as opposed to the advisor. So with that in mind, what do you think lenders could do better? If you both had, two top wishes that you think you'd love to talk to the lenders MDs or the head of sales or the sales directors, which is myself, what would you like to see that we do better as lenders to support you in your roles and therefore support customers? Megan, start with yourself.
For me, probably a key thing would be speed. I know it's hard at the moment, but just due to the banks being short-staffed, but a bit quicker processing, because clients like things done as soon as possible. They obviously want to move in and get in as quick as possible. Probably to help that would be explaining sometimes requirements that they need, rather than just sending out an email saying, please can we have this, like explaining a bit more what you need so I didn't understand what I need to provide.
Yeah, which you often I suppose it's hard for you sometimes to explain why, if you haven't been given the explanation from the lender.
Yeah,
okay.
If clients then ask why they need to give it to me, it'd be good to then be able to go back to them and say, this is why.
Okay, that's good. I hope all the lenders are listening. So, thanks, Megan. Jade, what about yourself?
So for me, it would be pick up the phone. I cannot express this enough, and some lenders already do it, and it's brilliant. They pick up the phone, they tell you what's outstanding, they will put you on hold, they will look at it, and they sign it off. It is that simple. Obviously, a lot of lenders are not that up to date yet. Some of them are very digital, some of them are not. So every single lender's got their own process. But for me, the key point is just picking up the phone and having a conversation, a human being conversation. Because what we find at the moment, like Meg says, is you get an email and they ask you for something and you're like, okay, is it this or is it this? Or do you require it for that or that? And you do go around in circles, and it takes them 10 days to pick up that email. Which obviously we found at the moment, you can't just pick up the phone and speak to someone. And then the next option is to speak with a BDM. And again, that's not always the option because you play telephone tag. So for me, it's picking up the phone and just having that conversation, because sometimes it's such a simple requirement that could be signed off so quickly.
No, I agree. So so probably the thing that you both have in abundance is patience and probably big memories, because you'll be using lots of lenders all of the time, and you have to remember so many different things about every lender that you deal with. So I do take my hat off to you for the work that you do. What about my final question? Really was around work-life balance, because I think the one thing that the pandemic's brought upon us is a lot more home working, and therefore there is that opportunity for work-life balance. And I think we all work longer days when we're in the offices. And how have you found that, Megan? Just to start with yourself.
For me, not too bad, because I think I had a couple of weeks on furlough, but other than that, I've been back in the office. So for me, I've been back in like my 9 till 5 routine, which has been quite nice. Just back to normal. Still been doing what I want to do in the evenings.
Good. Yeah. Good. Jade?
So for me, as I would say personally, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, is that when you're working from home, you find that you actually work more and at different times of the day. So I found that I was doing like a compliance at like 9:30 in bed, just like tapping away, not thinking anything by it. And then in the morning, I'd be like, I'll get an extra hour's lay-in. Obviously, that's not the case when you work 9 till 5:30. But I actually found I worked more at home in lockdown than I did in the real world, 9 till 5:30. I actually find you're more exhausted at work when from working from home. I think that might be because of travel. Obviously, you're having to travel, you're having to get dressed and actually look presentable. Whereas I will say, when I was in lockdown, there were days where I felt I'm going to stay in my pajamas, because why not?
Well, yeah, exactly.
The Zoom
you're not-
calls with just the jumpers on and then your pajama bottoms underneath. No one can see. It's fine.
Exactly, you can just crack on. No, that's perfect. And I think everyone's found that. It's just that I think people have got more time for work, but also more time for themselves at the same time, because everyone's traveling less. So that has to be something we take away from this in a positive way. And before I hand back to Gary, I do, on behalf of Pepper Money, but I think on behalf of all lenders, I think administrators within mortgage brokerages that doing the jobs you do, we can do what we do without you, because we know that you're often the bedrock that holds all things, holds transactions together, keeps customers' expectation where they need to be. And I think lenders and and advisors and brokers appreciate the efforts that you've put in. So thank you, and congratulations again for being shortlisted for this award. Back to you, Gary.
Thanks very much for that, Paul. That's nearly, we're nearly wrapped up with that, but I'd just like to ask Megan first, is there anything you'd like to add to say to the wider mortgage industry, who'll no doubt be watching this?
No, just thank you for nominating me. It was great.
Okay, and same question for Jade.
I have nothing to say apart from admin do hold the world together. Without us, there would be no mortgage brokers.
Yeah.
So all I can say is I'm surprised there's not more shortlisted on here. So
yeah, I agree.
If only they knew the opportunity they'd missed.
Exactly, too right.
Okay, great. Well, thanks very much. And as Paul said, I echo his sentiment. Good luck with everything. And as I speak, it looks as if we'll be heading into yet another lockdown.